Bum, ba-dum, ba-bum, bum, ba-ba-dum, ba-ba. Welcome to episode 2 of our study of Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper painting. Last time we discussed what particular moment Leonardo might have been trying to depict of the Last Supper, and we talked about how it wasn't a single moment, but multiple moments brought together in one. Today, I'd like to talk about the different figures or people that are in the painting and why they're doing what they're doing. And let's start right at the very center. Makes sense that Jesus himself would be right at the center, but there's so much more kind of going on around him as well. As we look at Jesus in the center and we look at things around him, Leonardo's trying to give a depiction that everything that's going on there is emanating from Jesus himself. Leonardo was not merely just a painter or artist, but he was also a scientist and a geometrist, or whatever a geometry person is. He knew these things well, so when we look at the image and all the lines that he painted in the image, they're all like rays that are emanating from Christ himself. Leonardo was probably trying to show that, of course, grace and love, especially at the Last Supper and also at every Mass, emanates from Christ. That's what makes the Mass so special. What makes the Mass special is not like brilliant words of a priest preaching or whatever, or really good music or nice chapel decorations. Those things are all nice, but you can get those things a lot of places. You can get good public speakers, you can get good decorations, you can get beautiful music a lot of places. But in church and at the Mass, what makes that special is the living presence of Christ, his love and his grace in the Eucharist. What makes the Last Supper special, what makes every Mass special, is that the grace and love which emanates from the altar, from Christ himself, emanates out to us and through us to the entire world. Second, I'd like to look at Jesus and his hands and his feet. When we look at his posture, it's sort of a strange posture. First of all, his hands are out to the side, and we talked a little bit about why his hand might be reaching towards the dish or motioning towards a piece of bread. But, of course, the other time that Jesus' hands were out to the side is in postures of prayer sometimes, but also on the cross. Then, if we look down at his feet are perfectly together. They're right next to each other. And this is not a very comfortable way to sit, especially for us as dudes. It's not super comfortable to have your feet together like this. So why did Leonardo depict it this way? Leonardo, I think, was trying to depict Christ in a cruciform posture, his hands already out to the side and his feet together as they would be nailed on the cross. This being foreshadowing or foresight of what he would do when he laid down his life. Of course, at the Last Supper and at the Eucharist, he lays down his life. That body and blood is offered to us in the Eucharist, and it's offered to us through that passion, through that sacrifice of Christ on the cross, the same sacrifice that we celebrate in the Mass. And so this cruciform posture shows us that great gift of his life for us. Third and finally, the position of his hands, I think, are particularly interesting and important. One hand is faced palm down off to one side. The other is facing palm up on the other side. These sort of postures are postures of hands that are of giving and of receiving. And so we spoke a little bit about, of course, Jesus offers us and gives to us his grace and love, gives to us his body and blood in the Eucharist. But the open hand with the palm up also shows that he's willing to receive, that he also desires to receive our love, to receive our gift as well to him. Especially during this time when we can't make it to Mass or when we can't gather for Mass physically, I hear a lot of people say, and I'm very edified and impressed by so many people saying, I want to receive Jesus, I want to receive his body and blood, but I can't on Sundays. And I think at times like this, when we feel our desire for Jesus, when we feel our desire to receive his love, we hunger and thirst for the Eucharist, we hunger and thirst for Christ, we must not forget that he also hungers and thirsts for us. He also desires to receive our heart, to receive our love as well. And so here he is in the painting with an open hand, seeking to receive our heart, hungering and thirsting for our love as well. As we continue this study, we'll continue to look at the figures around Christ, and we'll look at each apostle in turn and identify who that apostle is and why they're doing what they're doing. The first that we'll look at is the person to Jesus' right. Contemplate who that might be, and we'll gather again for episode 3 next time. So thanks for joining, and stay holy and stay healthy. Ba ba da ba 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 da ba 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 ba.